All right, the formation of the Ummah. So this is going to be the rest of our notes for the rise of Islam from chapter 8. So we're picking up in the section of the textbook called the formation of the Ummah. In 622, Muhammad and his followers fled from Mecca to Medina. Now remember, this is because when Muhammad began receiving his revelations, the message was that there is only one God, and so the polytheistic gods that were inside the Kaaba, Muhammad went in and rid the Kaaba of those polytheistic gods and claimed that there is only one God, and the people in Mecca felt that this was a threat to their economic base, that one of the reasons people were coming to Mecca was to pay homage to these polytheistic gods. So the people were afraid that it would threaten the income of the city, so they ran them off. Once in Medina, the followers formed a single community called the Ummah, U-M-M-A. Muhammad was invited to solve disputes of the people in the city, and he began to gain popularity in the city. Muhammad went back to Mecca with 10,000 converts, people who had converted to this new faith of Islam, and he gained control of the city and established a new state, a new government based on the teachings of Muhammad. Islam, which means submission, gained popularity because it united the separate clans. Remember how we talked about the history of the Arabian Peninsula prior to Muhammad? It was very fragmented, and so this religion is going to unite the people. It allowed them to turn some of their violence outward instead of on each other with all this infighting among the clans. So after Muhammad's death, which was in 632 CE, his father-in-law, Abu Bakr, took over leadership he became the caliph of the Ummah. Muhammad had not established a plan for the transfer of his power, and Abu Bakr set out to standardize the Islamic religion. He's going to do this through the creation of the 5 pillars. You need to be familiar with those. He also wanted to consolidate the Islamic State. Abu Bakr successfully established Muslim authority over the Arabs, and he also finished organizing the Quran. Disagreements arose over the questions of succession of the caliphs, and after the third caliph, Uthman, was assassinated, there began to be a lot of fighting over how should the new caliphs be selected, or should they be descendants, so on and so forth. Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law, Ali, made a claim for power. Ali was assassinated, and the Umayyads, who were opposing Ali, gained power and formed the Umayyad Caliphate in the year 661 CE. And to this day, there's division among Muslims in the Islamic world. The Shiites, or the Shia Muslims, support Ali's claim, and the Sunni Muslims support the selection of the first 3 caliphs, that they should be selected by the people. All right, now we need to look at the rise and the fall of the caliphate from the year 632 to 1258 CE. The book breaks it down even further into subsections, and so we'll just deal with these subsections. Islamic conquest, and so you can look at the map that we have projected here. This is going to cover the times roughly of 634 CE to 711 CE. You might want to look at the map on page 231 to look at the Umayyad conquest. But one of the questions you have to ask is, why did they conquer? Why were the Muslims taking land? Richard Bullitt gives several reasons. Number one, he says a lust for booty meaning treasure, pent-up energy, they had strong unity, and their foes were weak, and so it was easy to take land, and so they did. Most likely they conquered land because they had strong and capable leaders that enabled them to do it. The Umayyads kept their forces in regular paid armies that stayed in military camps. This is going to ensure when the men are required to stay into the camp that they're not going to run wild. The Arab rulers were the minority and did not seek converts. The reason that they're not seeking converts at this time is because Muslims are not being taxed, and so you don't want to have more converts Well, you may or may not, but the reason that they didn't want a lot of converts was because they couldn't tax them. It's also important to note that the Umayyads were very tolerant of some other religions. They referred to the Jews and the Christians as the Dhimmi people, Dhimmi, which literally means people of the book. And so the Muslims considered the Jews and the Christians to have gotten part of the revelation, but not the complete revelation. That they were almost in a succession of, all right, some teachings that Noah had done, Moses, even Jesus himself, but it wasn't the complete revelation that Muhammad received. And so the Umayyads' capital was Damascus. They used some of the Sassanid and Byzantine political practices. There were some rebellions that eventually are going to lead to the overthrow of the Umayyads in the year 750 CE. Non-Arabs are going to be demanding more political power, which is going to weaken the empire also. The Umayyads stopped progressing, and some historians claim that they had become pleasure-seeking. Another thing, 50,000 soldiers in their military had married local women and were rarely given a share of the treasure that they would collect or the booty from other empires. And so they became annoyed with the Umayyad elites. So when it declines, a small remnant of it is going to remain in Spain. So the Umayyads, for the most part, are going to collapse, but a small remnant of it is going to remain in Spain. When the Umayyads collapse, the Abbasids, this leaves the door open for the Abbasids to take power. An uncle of Muhammad took over in power, and he formed the Abbasid Caliphate. During this time, literature and learning are going to thrive under the Abbasids. They're going to move the capital to Baghdad, and they're going to they're going to push for more converts of subjects to Islam. They want more people to become subjects of Islam. Between the years 850 and 1050, the Abbasid power began to decline. Around the year 850, it starts to decline. And the reason that historians give for its decline was, it was number one, it was impossible to control their vast territory. They had become too large. Let me see if I have. Oh, so there's the Umayyads, roughly between 661 to 750, and the Abbasids. So not quite as big as the Umayyads, but one of the reasons the historians give of the Abbasid decline was it was impossible to control their vast territory. Transportation and communication throughout the area was virtually impossible. Number three, non-Muslims were dissatisfied with the political and the economic system because the Muslims are controlling everything. The non-Muslims are dissatisfied with this. And fourthly, and they didn't like that the capital was in Baghdad. And fourthly, local revolts carved the Abbasid realm into smaller Muslim states. And those people were not paying their taxes. And so the less money coming in, the harder it is going to be to control your empire. In Baghdad, the caliphs had come to rely on a group of men called the Mamluks. And these are Turkish slaves that they used for troops. They were not paid properly. And so they overthrew the caliph. These Mamluks said, we have power, why are we not using it? And they put a caliph in power of their choosing. They chose the next caliph. The Abbasids Caliphates tried to control the decline. It continued to decline. They tried to make some reforms that didn't really work. The Umayyads are still in power in Spain during this time period. And Spain becomes a very diverse place. There's going to be a Islamic influence. There's some leftover Roman influence there. There's some Germanic influence. There's even some Jewish culture in Spain. And Jewish and Islamic knowledge is going to flourish in Spain during this time period. There's going to be a group of people called the ulama, and these are people with knowledge to interpret the Islamic law. 1050 to 1253 CE. In Central Asia and the Middle East, a nomad group, the Seljuk Turks, are going to take advantage of the Abbasid decline. The Seljuk Sultanate stretched from Afghanistan. You can see it on the map here. They're going to stretch from Afghanistan to Baghdad, and they're eventually going to take Anatolia, present-day Turkey, from the Byzantines in the year 1071. So the Byzantines are going to lose some power. And this is going to happen at the Battle of Manzikert. That's important for you to note that happens in 1071, the Battle of Manzikert. Under Turkish rule, the Tigris and the Euphrates irrigation system went into disrepair, which means that agriculture is going to fall. Tax collection went down. Riots began to break out. This is all under the rule of the Seljuk Turks. So this is what's happening to the Islamic Empire, the Caliphate. Riots are going to break out. Eventually, insufficient food sources are going to lead to the collapse of the capital in Baghdad. The Crusades are also going to put pressure on the Islamic lands, the Islamic lands that the Seljuk Turks had controlled. The Seljuk leaders didn't get involved in internal religious fighting. Cities are going to shrink. They're going to lose population. Ultimately, what happens is because of the Crusades, the Muslims unite to fight against the Christians. But this isn't enough. They're not going to be able to restore unity. And eventually, the Mongolians are going to invade, and that's going to cause a collapse to the Islamic caliphates. Just to wrap up, we need to look at a couple things dealing with Islamic civilization. Islamic law evolves over time, but the basis is always going to be on the teachings of Muhammad. There's going to be specialists on Islamic law, the ulama, which we already talked about, and they're going to compile the teachings, the hadith, into the Sharia, which is the main book of Islamic law based on the teachings of Muhammad. Conversions are going to take place. Conversions and urbanization are related. Once converted, many people move to cities to learn about Islam and to flee discrimination in rural areas. Islamic practices are going to vary based on their location because there wasn't a central authority anymore. Urban areas traded a lot. Muslims are going to surpass the Europeans in the fields of astronomy and medicine, and the Muslims are going to embrace a lot of the Greek teachings. Make sure that you read the paragraph on page 241 about technology and science and the section about chemistry on page 244. All right, I'm going to try to wrap this up in under 2 minutes. Islamic women. Muslim women adopted the veil, and this was a practice that already existed in the Byzantine and the Sassanid empires. Women seldom traveled. Rural women worked in the fields and tended animals. Women could be influential in the family, but only slave women could appear in public. Muslim women actually fared better than Jewish women and Christian women at the time for the following reasons. Number one, they could inherit and own property. They could divorce. They could remarry, so a lot better than the Gupta women. They could testify in court, and they could travel for the pilgrimage. They could make the trip to Mecca. So this is going to show that they could practice religious ceremonies. Islam doesn't tolerate homosexuality, although it did take place. Muslims were not allowed to enslave other Muslims, Jews, or Christians, or even Zoroastrianists. They couldn't enslave those people. So their slaves were mainly prisoners of war. Non-Muslims were held as slaves, but the title of slave was not hereditary, so you didn't pass it on to your children. With the decline of Islam, the Caliphate, there's two sources of religious authority that remain. The madrasas, which are the religious colleges, MADRASAS, and the Sufis, which we talked about in class a little bit. And this is a mystical group, a brotherhood that are going to provide guidance for everyday life for these people. So that was a whirlwind, and we will talk about some continuities and changes over time in class.